Dolores Tarver. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Georgia, and it is time for the tea. Tea Time with Dr. Tarver is a wellness based podcast. It is not intended to be a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. Hey, how are y'all? Right? I just saw you yesterday. I'm back. I'm back out here in this mental health awareness month streets trying to make sure that I am giving you some good information for the month. I told you last week was just a challenging week, and so I took some time to take care of me. And so I'm giving you double for your trouble. I was here yesterday, and I'm back again today for the repeat. I think that this is a month, I said this yesterday, that doesn't get enough attention and time. It really should be all the time, 12 months. You know how I feel about mental health awareness. But I think oftentimes we get into that habit of thinking about our mental wellness when other people remind us to. So, fortunately for you, I'm going to be reminding you to do that frequently. So, we're in this series of just looking at factors that affect our mental wellness. Yesterday, we talked about why sometimes it's just hard for us to focus on our mental wellness and address our mental health. And today, we're getting into why we just tend to be overly accommodating of other people and overextending ourselves, typically to our own detriment. So, let's go ahead and get into it. We've all done it, taken on too much, and instantly had regrets about it. When you really, it might be that you have like, how did I commit to three events in one day, or how did I manage to not take a single day this week to actually just focus on my replenishing my self-care, my wellness, and then I'm just working and going to different things and having these commitments and responsibilities back to back to back. You might have agreed to babysit for someone and you're like, I'm exhausted. Why did I do that? Why did I do this turn and burn? Showed up for somebody, stayed for whatever they needed, and then got back on the road, getting home in the wee hours of the morning just to make sure that you were there for whatever that event was. And the truth is, because we care about people, I think a lot of times we want to support people and show up for people because that's what we would want others to do for us. I think sometimes we generally have a passion for people. Sometimes we actually think helping other people is a sacrifice that we should be engaging in. The shoulds often show up when we're overextending ourselves. The military, they say, over promising and under delivering. You probably heard me say that before. But we get to this place where it feels as if the real purpose of life, and to feel like you're doing something that has meaning, is to be attending to other people, doing for other people, doing something that is of some benefit, which is often why you'll see people overly extended in 15 different organizations showing up, trying to make sure that they're doing their part to pour into somebody or to make a situation better, or help with legislation, or take on a cause. I think that that sense of obligation doesn't just stop with us feeling like we should be paying it forward, but also because sometimes that's what we've been taught, that's what we've been modeled in our families, is that you sacrifice for others. You all know, people come over to the house, and you were told, hey, you don't be greedy. You eat just what you need because our guest takes the priority. Some of you have given up your beds before and been sleeping on floors, or couches, and probably have some frustrating memories of why you were always the one that had to give up your room. But essentially, what that says is our guests come first. You've been in organizations, you've been in churches where we always cater to the guests. We prioritize the guests, and I think that sense of obligation in us is like, oh, hey, this is what I should be doing. I think sometimes families can use a little guilt and manipulation on us in that way. Maybe you are the person in the family who's the responsible one. Maybe you're the person in the family who financially has done well for yourself. Maybe you're the person in the family who problem solves very well, who is able to be solution focused, who is able to organize and get things together. And so that sense of obligation then comes in that respect as well, because if I don't, who will? And I think a lot of times that feeling responsible for other people plays into that. You may have a family member right now you're financially supporting and have been supporting for some time. You may be the person that fills in the gaps for people when they don't have enough to make sure their kids have the clothes and the shoes they need, or to ensure when holidays come around and birthdays come around that the children have what they need. You may be the person that's helping your niece or nephew be able to explore college opportunities or be involved in activities and organizations. You may be paying after school fees. You may be paying for them to be involved in extracurricular activities. You may be paying to ensure that they're able to do these college tours and have opportunities to be able to apply for scholarships, or to be able to even extend beyond the walls of where you live to other opportunities. You may be the one exposing them to different things, because you realize if you don't, then they won't get those things. Um, I do think sometimes we are people pleasers and we just have a hard time telling people no. We have a hard time asserting ourselves. We have a hard time stating what our needs are, what our opinions are, and we just say whatever you want. It's fine. You all remember the first coming to America. What do you like? Whatever you like. And so I think sometimes for us, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, or we don't want people to feel left out. Some of you are overextending yourselves, planning for events for your friends and your family, making sure they have great birthdays, because people don't do that for you. You find out like, oh wow, nobody's ever thrown you a surprise party. Well, let me go ahead and do that. Oh wow, this is a big milestone birthday for you. Let me go ahead and make sure that I organize something for you. That not wanting to have others left out, but also because there's that part of us that I think sometimes hopes that in us modeling these things that people will show up for us in the same way. You probably had at least one time in your life where you weren't supported in the way that you supported or others, or that you would have liked to have been supported. And so you're always giving people that benefit, so that they're supported and they don't end up feeling like you felt in that moment. And I think that's one of the challenges as well, is we think other people are like us. So we think they're going to be grateful and appreciative and that they're going to show up. And that's not necessarily the case. I think also like if we're honest, like sometimes we just have like high standards. And so we want things done in a certain way. You might call that your work ethic. You might call that your standard of excellence. You might call it perfectionism. You might call it obsessiveness. Might be a little control going on in there. But whatever is underneath that, and you really want to see somebody excel or something done well, then sometimes you'll take on too much just to make sure that something doesn't fail, or that something has the appearance that you would want it to have, right? Like, ugh, like you, like some of us are bothered in our spirits when things are just mediocre, or they don't meet a certain standard that we have in our minds, and so we'll jump in and take it over and take on too much, just to ensure that it's on that level. And I will tell you that no matter why you are overextending yourself, like there is, you may not feel like you have an option. Again, that speaks back to the obligation. Like, oh, if I don't do this, I'll lose somebody or something, or I won't get that promotion or whatever it may be. I think sometimes we overextend ourselves at work as well. Wanting to help and support our coworkers, but also wanting to make sure we can keep our jobs and that we're in positions to be promoted. But as I was saying, whatever the reason, regardless of the cause, like there is potential damage that can occur from that, as we're talking about the things that affect mental health. And so, what does that look like? I think a lot of people honestly are burned out and they're tired and they're drained. And it feels like this constant underlying exhaustion. I talked yesterday about how I think just we've been a little bit more stressed over the course of this winter and now transitioning into the spring. For various reasons, some of it's jobs, some of it may be where your children are in at this point in their careers. It might be relationship things. It could be that you're just dealing with having to manage more with less, any number of reasons. And so we're already, I think, just a little bit more pressed and stressed and stretched anyway. Then you start adding on these other things, taking on these challenges. We're, trying to support each other during difficult times. And so sometimes we'll end up supporting, but it'll really be like self-sacrifice. And so I'm helping you out, but at the cost of myself. Um, and one of the ways that you're neglecting your mental wellness is when you don't even know, like, okay, when's the last time I even did something for myself? Like, what I've had people tell me, they don't even know what their interests are anymore. They don't know what makes them happy. They don't know what they get excited about. They don't really um even understand at some point, like, what am I doing with my life other than being in service to others, because that should not be the totality of your existence, to be in service to others. Your first obligation is to make sure you're protecting this temple, this vessel that God has given you. And so you neglecting that is not you actually respecting what God gifted you. But I think sometimes we really struggle with that. Like, who am I outside of sacrificing for other people, serving other people, taking care of other people? Literally, some of us have such a caregiver spirit that it has taken over us, and like we haven't nurtured any other aspects of ourselves. I will say another sign is that if you are finding yourself feeling resentful, sometimes it's that quiet resentment. It'll kind of sneak up on you. It's like that little twinge of like, you do something and somebody doesn't say thank you, or you do something and people got like all this feedback for you, but they were not involved in the process at all. Didn't help. Got a lot of commentary on something they didn't assist with. And you start just feeling underappreciated because now there's an expectation that you'll just show up and you'll do these things, and there is not you feeling valued anymore in doing it. It is for them like, okay, let me check off my to-do list. You got it. So I can go ahead and kick my feet up, and show up late and leave early. And I think that oftentimes we're particularly feeling this in situations where these are relationships with people that we love and care about. It could be family members, it could be members of your faith-based institution, it could be members of an organization that you're in, it could be your co-workers. It's like, wow, like, I go out of my way to do these things, to show up, to be there, to be present, um, regardless of how I'm doing. But like, if I ask you for anything, then all of a sudden you're busy, you don't have time for that. I got to check with my significant other, never get back to you. Um, or I'll say I'm going to show up and then I don't, right? Then we have, I think, one of the telltale signs, but I will tell you this is one of the signs that often comes later. And so you have probably often been experiencing this for a while before you start noticing a decline in your health, before it starts showing up physically. We can carry a lot. I've talked a good bit about how we can get used to stress, and you got so much cortisol just going around, that stress hormone in your body, you're not even aware of it. We've talked about um, the normalizing of stress. Like, I'm just you get used to being in that space, and so that's your set point. And so you don't even realize that you're stressed. I always talk about, we won't even know when we're suffering because we've been suffering so much. But yeah, that lack of sleep, the headaches. I talked a little bit about this yesterday as well. The random pains could be shoulders, neck, back. A lot of times we're carrying that stress in that neck shoulder region, especially women, and in the stomach, the GI area. Men may be feeling that muscle tension and tightness, restlessness, agitation. You also can notice, the grinding of the teeth, the headaches that pop up. But you'll also just notice like that blood pressure can just be, steadily increasing, that resting heart rate steadily increasing, because you never actually relax. and come down. And so then, you start noticing labs being off, and stress exacerbates a lot of health conditions. And so oftentimes we wouldn't necessarily recognize them as a health issue at first. Like, you don't know that fatigue is because you've had all of this stress that you've been carrying around with you for so long. Like, you don't realize that um, the the constant, like, people describe them almost as if like it's a sharp pain, like a just like a pop almost, that'll come. And because so many things can look like tremors, the signs you're about to have a stroke, you get that facial drooping, right? Like, people wouldn't necessarily equate that to stress per se. So you go to the doctor like, oh my goodness, something is going on, and then they take a look at you, and then they're like, hey, like, what's been going on in your life? And you're like, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Right. And then, providers have gotten to the point where they recognize, like, okay, well, what's your ordinary? Like, tell me what you're doing today. And then when people start listing all of the things they do and that they're responsible for and that they've taken on and that they're navigating and managing, then, the provider just looking at them like, okay, so you haven't picked up on that you are overwhelmed, that you're taking on too much, that you're overly accommodating people, and because you are overextending yourself, people are under investing themselves. And oftentimes we don't necessarily see that until somebody points it out, and even then we're like, nah, other people do this, and your providers are like, nah, no, they actually don't. I think also just that piece too of not being aware, like, it's almost like you lose yourself, you lose touch with yourself, you're not investing in yourself. I When we were doing some of the talking about investing in yourself, when we were looking at career things last month, I talked a bit about, like, being able to take stock and inventory of your talents, and really thinking about how you would be able to market yourself and create this business, and making sure you have the team in place for all of that. People have a hard time investing in themselves. How many of you have helped somebody else launch a business? How many of you have helped somebody else be able to apply for different opportunities, but you haven't done that for yourself? And you're no less talented than anyone else. But the thing is, you just haven't invested. It is like, oh yeah, I've been working on this for years. We pick stuff up and we put it down because what we do is we prioritize other things over ourselves. We prioritize other people over ourselves. And so you launching your own insert whatever there, or you taking those vacations, or you carving out that time for you to be able to look for opportunities that are a better fit for you and allow you to be able to get the things you need. Like, you don't take that time to invest in yourself. And that speaks to just how much there is a lack in our personal time. I had last month I was talking to students about their wellness behaviors, and we were talking about, like, creating a pie chart for where all your time goes, and organize it into the 8 wellness areas, and how much time are going into these wellness areas versus these other things. And mostly, I won't even say mostly, everybody in that space acknowledge that they don't take that personal time. We start off our days going. We start off our days on our phone, and we're launching into, like, we don't even take a minute, thank you God for breath. Just a minute to settle ourselves and really sit with ourselves, and release and relax. We don't start our day like that. We don't end our day like that. And we're always feeling like there's something to do. Like, how many of you wake up and you just feel like you're behind? You're rushing. You got to go. You hit the ground running with the kids, or breakfast, or making sure partners are ready and set for the day, or getting ready to go to work. And so we're not taking that time to meditate or exercise or pray, or just sit. Like, sometimes you just need to sit. Like, some people don't even know how to do that. They feel like if they're not doing something, then something's wrong, and i.e. the guilt. All right, that's another side effect of overextending ourselves is that we feel guilty when we're not doing something. And so it is, for those of you who, find yourself doing something every weekend, when you don't, like, it's almost like you don't know what to do with yourself. And people have talked about, like, my weekends are worse. My days are worse when I don't have activities to do because I feel like I lay around all day. I feel lazy. I'm groggy because I'm in and out of sleep, and can feel just a wee bit depressed. Like, what is going on with me? But that's because I'm used to being out and engaging and doing other stuff, and I don't have to sit with myself. And so we want to make sure that we're attending to that. Like, what is driving that? Where is that coming from? And are there things that I can put in place to allow me to be able to sit and rest and enjoy it, and it feel like it's productive because it's an investment in me. And I will also say that I think, one of the side effects of our overpromising and underdelivering is that we have a difficult time being able to make decisions because you just start feeling overwhelmed because there's constantly people calling on you, asking you to do things, like y'all on 16 committees, trying to navigate all of the different tasks outlined by these committees, plus your families, plus your jobs, plus um, your relationships, plus the things that you actually, may enjoy and want to get involved in. And so it ends up straining relationships. That's another side effect, because people are like, you don't have time for me. You don't have time for yourself, much less you having time for me. And so people will often talk about, like, how their significant others feel neglected because they're not getting that quality time. It's like, hey, you make space for everything but me. You make space for everything but this family. You make space for everything but yourself. And so I'm seeing the remnants of it. Dragging all around here. Your hair is falling out. You're constantly irritated, and you're giving everybody else all of this parts of you, and then the rest of us, when you come home, are getting the depleted you, which is just not a nice person. And I think sometimes it can be really hard for people to find joy when they're in that space, like when you just feel pulled in a lot of different directions and you're giving of yourself. And you may be giving so much of yourself that, like, finding joy becomes elusive because, like, I don't even know what joy would look like for me because I haven't invested in myself. I've kind of lost myself. And so I'm so used to making sure other people are happy. I don't even know what a true happy would look like for me. What does that even feel like? So what do we do about it, Tarver? Well, I will tell you always, how I feel about a good plan now. That is one of the things that I always hope you kind of take away. It is important for you to have a wellness plan. And you, like, now you done gave us 50 plans over the years of this podcast, but they all have similar things that are involved in all of them. And so you might be able to break out one of those plans you made after New Year's, one year, or when you did your vision board that year, or when you sat down and said, I'm not going to keep on doing the same stuff. Y'all know how we do. We'd be like, oh, all right, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Break out one of those plans. You got one somewhere, dust it on off, and get it updated to where it fits for you right now. And that wellness plan does need to include, like, how do you replenish? How do you recharge? How do you take care of yourself? Some investment things, like, what is it that I like what gives me meaning and purpose outside of serving other people? And if I'm struggling with that, come on, plug for therapy. You knew it was coming. It may be that I need to see somebody to really kind of understand, why am I so other oriented, other focused, and it's difficult for me to focus on myself. Like, why do I feel so much guilt about it, or why does it feel like it doesn't have the same meaning and purpose, if it's me focusing on myself? And it may be some of the messages, again, that you received earlier in your life, which is when we have to do that cognitive restructuring. Like, I gotta take some time and really address these unhealthy thoughts that are fueling these behaviors that are not allowing me to be mentally well. And so once I address those thoughts, then my behaviors can now match because I'm investing in myself and I recognize the importance of that self investment and that self care. And so now when I'm engaging in behaviors that allow me to be able to experience it, then I feel like I'm in harmony. I feel like I'm in congruence instead of feeling incongruent when my thoughts and my behaviors are not matching, or my thoughts and my behaviors are matching, but the result is the damage that is being caused because they're both contributing to me not taking care of myself. So it doesn't matter if your thoughts are in harmony, if your thoughts are self-destructive, right? So the goal is for us to make sure that your thoughts are promoting wellness. And y'all know I'm gonna always tell you to get you a good accountability partner, because I think a lot of times we have good intentions. We start all of these things, but it's just challenging for us to be able to keep them up, right? So what we end up doing is we start and then we ultimately like fall off. Y'all know what happens. What do? I start prioritizing these other things and I put myself on the shelf, and I'm not really addressing the things that I need to in order for me to be well. Because I've let these other things kind of come in, and now I have these competing interests, and oftentimes we're going to choose the other things versus ourselves. Some of you may need some assertiveness training, to just be able to set boundaries, to say no. Boundaries are really important. That's an important part of any wellness plan, because in order for you to stop overcommitting, then you need to be able to say no, and you need to be able to prioritize, and you need to be able to think about what you already have going on in your level of wellness in that moment. Like some seasons are harder seasons for various reasons. It may be a season around loss for you, and you just want to take on less things during that time. It may be a season for loss for you, and you might want to take on a couple of other things during that time, because it gives you ways to be able to navigate your grief. However, you have to do that self assessment. And I think a lot of times we're not. We're just operating on automatic pilot, and we're not necessarily assessing business as usual. We talked about those pathways. They've been there so long, they're on automatic. You don't have to think about them, but those pathways aren't healthy pathways. And so as we're readdressing, resetting, recalculating, it's important for me to be intentional about the pathways that I'm using. I sometimes do need to go the road less traveled, particularly if the road less traveled is my self-care and my self wellness, right? I will also say that you got to have a good team in place. You have to have a good team in place, whether that's your mental health provider, your medical providers. We've talked about your wellness, your financial wellness providers, your spiritual wellness providers. So whatever that team needs, you make sure you have a captain in all of those categories. That's going to allow you to reset, and because sometimes we don't know, right? We talked about one of the side effects of overcommitting is that, like, yeah, I kind of lose myself, and it's very, like, it's difficult for me to make decisions. I get overwhelmed. I don't really know how to invest because I've been so removed from that. Some of us have never really invested, so we definitely don't know where to start. And I definitely will tell you, like, you're not going to be able to focus on all the areas at one time. You're going to have to prioritize and be strategic about, let me start with one or two areas, small, reasonable goals that I can manage and navigate as I'm growing and developing in this area. Take y'all some vacations. I think one of the things we don't do as well is just separate. Like sometimes you just need to leave stuff, just leave it, and allow yourself to be able to go, because that's when you're going to get that sleep that you need, that you've been neglecting, and be able to get those good habits back on track. I will tell you, it's not worth your health if you are losing yourself. All right. I will also tell you, be well.